tengok dekat internet, banyak yang membuktikan sumber tenaga daripada nuklear adalah mahal, jauh melebihi sumber-sumber tenaga lain yang ada. Itu dasar bantahan nombor 1. So with that, I would like to invite our honorable panelist, Prof. Lal Chan, to give us some idea within less than 5 minutes about mengapa betul ke logi nuklear ni mahal. Point number 1. Thank you.
Terima kasih. Sebelum saya mulakan, saya nak declare beberapa hal. Walaupun saya terlibat dengan UCI, SI, tapi bukan sebagai profesor di universiti, cuma adjunct profesor. Tapi what I say now does not reflect the views of any of the organizations I'm with. It's more as a member of civil society. Tetapi apa yang faedah saya adalah pengalaman dalam industri tenaga sejak tahun 63, jadi lebih dari 50 tahun. Semasa saya di LLM dulu, LLM telah merubuhkan satu pasukan untuk membina logi nuklear, tapi Perdana Menteri masa itu, Tuan Mahathir, kata Malaysia tidak akan ambil nuclear power dalam abad 20 in the 20th century. Now we are in 21st century. Now, but I understand Tun still is not happy with having nuclear. I mean, what is important is, has there been justification of the need for nuclear power to satisfy Malaysians' power needs? Saya tak faham sama ada orang daripada peserta sini hadir ucapan Dr. Rajendra Pachauri selepas Fukushima di Unit 10. Semasa itu, beliau heran bila saya tanya kenapa Malaysia nak hubungkan logi nuklear sebelum mengambil kesempatan energy efficiency dan renewable energy. Dan beliau tanya daripada Datuk Lu, sekarang Ketua Setiausaha di Kedah, sepatutnya energy efficiency is the lowest hanging fruits. So Malaysia should go for energy efficiency first, and then renewable energy, and then coal or nuclear. He was not for nuclear all the time. But I retorted maybe cheekily, Malaysia doesn't want EE, energy efficiency, because there's not much money in it. Renewable energy becomes sexy when the feed-in tariff comes in, and nuclear is very sexy because there's lots of money in it. And everybody laughed. Now, I have actually posted on the former minister, Dr. Sri Peter Chin's blog, that Malaysia does not need nuclear, and the publication Green Prospects Asia actually raised the question. Facts have been given that we don't need nuclear by 2022. Why can't Kedah or ST answer these reports? That was in January 2013. Up to now, nobody has responded because apparently they can't answer the facts. Unfortunately, I must also declare that when Anas asked me to be on this panel, I said, saya bukan anti nuclear. And that has been my stand from long ago, not while I was in LLM, but after that. Why? I have written some articles in a blog under Dr. Christopher Tay, where I put this point very clearly. We do not need nuclear before about 2025, and in the meantime, the chances are there for energy efficiency to drop the demand from customers to the same extent that the nuclear power can generate. And it is always cheaper to save the kilowatt hour that you don't use than to generate and supply to others. Dalam pengalaman saya dengan konsultan jurupumping Denmark di Suruhanjaya Tenaga dalam 2002-2005, energy efficiency plan gave a cost of saving a kilowatt hour as 13 cents when supply was 26 cents. So in short, the issue is it's cheaper to save kilowatt hours than generate and supply. I accept the fact that nuclear energy is not necessarily cheap, not necessarily expensive. because there's no standard figure on this. Figures like Finland has very bad situation, Koreans and Japanese say they can do well and cheaply, but why is it nobody considers an IPP to do nuclear? But the main thing is, although I'm not anti-nuclear, I say we should keep nuclear to as far back as possible until we have no other option, the choice of last resort, when we could probably have thorium-based, or if we are far enough, it could even be fusion energy. Thank you. Sorry, I taken more than 5 minutes.
Actually, it was perfectly 5 minutes. Thank you very much. So, basically, Prof. Lalchan kata dia tidak anti-nuklear, tapi bagi beliau tidaklah murah dan tidaklah diperlukan. Itu dua poinnya daripada Prof. Lalchan tadi. Without further ado, I would like to invite Dr. McCoy to explain to us about, is it true that the nuclear as energy source is expensive and is non-economical?
Yes, thank you, Chairman. I think it's good that the government is conscious of the problems we have with global warming and climate change. But its solution, I think, is not a good solution, and that is nuclear energy. And there are some quarters in Malaysia who actually describe nuclear energy as green energy. And it is anything but green energy. So there's a lot of disinformation out there, and there are a lot of vested interests out there who are going to make a lot of money out of constructing a nuclear power plant. Actually, it's going to be one nuclear power plant with 2 units, not 2 nuclear power plants. So it's going to be one nuclear power plant with 2 units. I think they build one after the other. So I think there is no question, if you look at the figures and if you look at the reports of various writers, economists, there is no question about nuclear energy being cheap. It is not cheap. I mean, there's no question about it. I must convince you about that. It's not, you were saying it's not cheap and it's not expensive. It is very, very expensive, because a lot of subsidies are hidden, and you don't know anything about what's happening in this government, as you know. I mean, yes, absolutely right. Because whatever happens within the government is a secret. And if you question it, you know, you are being disloyal, you will be charged with sedition, etc., etc. Well, you all know about that. But the fact remains that nuclear energy is not cheap. I think there is no question about that. If it were cheap, you can imagine how great businessmen, not only here but all over the world, will be investing in nuclear energy. And they're not doing that. In fact, nuclear energy is being phased out in most countries, except perhaps in China. But China is a very special, very different situation altogether. Now, the very reputable ratings and risk company known as Moody's Corporate Finances recently estimated that the capital cost per kilowatt of nuclear energy, the capital cost per kilowatt of nuclear energy was 275% higher than that of wind energy. So the capital cost per kilowatt of nuclear energy is 275% higher than wind energy and 150% higher than solar energy. Moody's prediction is that nuclear costs will rise further, while the cost of other renewable energy sources will be substantially reduced. Numerous Wall Street studies and independent energy analysts have estimated that electricity from renewable energy sources costs an average of 6 US cents, which is 18 Malaysian cents per kilowatt hour, while electricity from nuclear energy is about 12 to 20 US cents, or about 36 to 60 Malaysian cents per kilowatt hour. So there is a big difference. And these are figures by people who know what they're talking about. These are economists, these are bankers, etc. So the real cost of nuclear energy is therefore very much higher than the Malaysian government's estimated cost. And I think the other thing you must remember is, building a nuclear reactor is fine. Then you have to maintain it, and you have to avoid accidents, and what do you do with the radioactive nuclear waste? Now, this radioactive nuclear waste is not going to last for 10 years or 20 years, not even for a century. Radioactive nuclear waste remains radioactive and lethal for hundreds of thousands of years. Plutonium has a half-life of 240,000 years. Half-life. Plutonium has a half-life of 240,000 years. So what we are talking about in terms of radioactive waste, for which there is no method of safely disposing of, we are talking about radioactive nuclear waste forever. I mean, that's what it really means. And you're going to foster this on future generations. And I think that is highly immoral.
Time's up.
Time's up? Okay, thank you.
Okay, I'm sorry Dr. McCoy, I have to control the time.
That's okay.
So basically Dr. McCoy cakap it's good Malaysia dah start talking about global warming, climate change semua. Namun begitu ada setengah pihak daripada industri nuklear yang nak promote nuklear dan menyebarkan info-info yang tidak tepat mengenai kos nuklear. Dan beliau merujuk kepada laporan daripada Moody's yang mengatakan tenaga sumber nuklear 275% lebih mahal daripada tenaga bersumberkan angin, 150% lebih mahal daripada tenaga bersumberkan suria. Manakala laporan-laporan daripada Wall Street mengatakan kos tenaga nuklear 12 hingga 20 sen per kilowatt dolar dan 20 hingga 60 sen kilowatt per hour kos nuklear, tenaga nuklear. Manakala kos-kos daripada tenaga boleh diperbaharui daripada solar adalah 6 sen US dollar per kilowatt hour ataupun 18 sen ringgit Malaysia per kilowatt hour. Kalau dari situ kita boleh lihat ada at least 3 kali ganda nuklear lebih mahal daripada tenaga boleh diperbaharui.